This interview is part of the Living Legends collection of the Oklahoma Historical Society. It is an interview with Mrs. Roy Morford, M-O-R-D-F-O-R-D, in Vici, Oklahoma in 1971. The interviewer is unidentified. The introduction of the interview was not recorded.
On a rented farm and sold our last crop of corn for 11 cents a bushel. Homesteaded on a farm after we came to Oklahoma, 13 miles southeast of Vici, Oklahoma, in the year 1899. I started to school at the age of 6 in London, Kansas. When we moved to Oklahoma, I attended school at Dillahunty until I graduated from the 8th grade. At that time, each pupil was required to take the county examination to pass I made the highest grades in the county and received a scholarship from the Business College at Guthrie, Oklahoma.
I think a little observation on how you got to Oklahoma.
We came to Oklahoma in covered wagons, drawn by horses, and it was very cold, snowy weather. Before I took the 8th grade county examination, I had passed the state teacher's examination and received a 3rd grade teacher's certificate. That summer, I attended what was called a normal school at Tologa for 1 month. I began teaching in September 1902 in the Pioneer School in Dewey County, Oklahoma. At the age of 16, I had 48 pupils enrolled in the first 8 grades. Each day I rode a horse to and from school, a distance of 10 miles, and I did my own janitor work. This consisted of sweeping the floor, starting the fires. Carrying the drinking water from a well over a half mile away. All of us drank from the same dipper. I attended normal the next summer and went back to Pioneer School that fall with many experiences to help me through my 2nd year. I might add the wages were $30 a month for a 5-month term. If we needed the money, we had to have our wages discounted at the bank. My next term was at Camp Creek. The enrollment was only 36 pupils. Several of the pupils were older than I myself, but some of my pupils went on to school and became teachers, lawyers, and doctors. I taught 2 years at Camp Creek, then went on to Union School where I taught 2 years. Then I finished a term of 3 months at South Perry. One day I heard a knock at the door, and when I opened it, there stood 2 young men dressed in long Mother Hubbards with a knife and a hatchet in their belts. I asked them in and gave them a seat in fear of what they might do next. They enrolled in school later and were very nice pupils. The Friday afternoon ciphering and spelling matches were a very good way to test what the pupils were doing. Learning, it should be. Each winter, we had a box supper. The proceeds were used to buy dictionaries and other supplies for the school. Each Christmas, a community Christmas tree was planned. We had a program and a Christmas tree with treats for all. This was enjoyed by all since it was the only Christmas some children had. The last I taught was at Diller School, just east of Vici. After serving my community for 7 years, as a pioneer school teacher, I thought I had done the best I could. On April the 25th, 1908, I became the wife of Roy Morford, one of my former pupils. Back in those days, a woman's place was considered to be in the home. So I gave up my teaching career and became the mother of 2 lovely children. Mr. Morford and I homesteaded on a farm 2 miles south of Sunnyside School, just east of Vici. After farming for several years, Mr. Morford became a rural mail carrier. He had this position for 26 years, and we established a home in Vici. I've been a widow for almost 9 years, and consider I have did what I could.
Arlie, a few more items I believe that would be interesting to our listeners as to the experiences and accommodation of that period of time. Would you mind describing how the inside of Pioneer School and other schools like it were furnished, and tell us about the seats they used and the heating device?
The schoolhouse was very primitively finished, with wainscoting unpainted in the inside. The seats were homemade and very uncomfortable to sit in. In fact, one little boy held up his hand and asked if he might stand on the floor a while. The stove was in the middle, was a box iron stove in the middle of the schoolhouse. As there were no playground equipment, the children played such games as Andy Over with a ball made of twine string, shinny with tin cans, and baseball. Pioneer was very fortunate to have a family such as Sam Grice Sr., baseball players. They helped at the accompanying ball and bat, furnishing ball and bat. They coached the game and encouraged the youngsters. That's all. The sport of old cat was another game they played.
What were the problems of discipline, if any, at the time you taught?
Two and from school, the pupils were accountable to the teacher for their behavior.
Hello, Miss Rick. What a marvelous review. And here we shall end it. No doubt, Mrs. Morford knows many instances and had many experiences in her long journey through western Oklahoma, unable to record here. Put in, as a note of interest, we have a sort of reunion here today in Mrs. Morford's home. Her husband's brother, an Idaho resident of today, and I were schoolmates at the same time when Mrs. Morford taught. His name is Herbert. Herbert married a local girl by the name of Fanny Lindsay and moved to Idaho and became a well-to-do farmer. But go ahead. He and I have had quite a time conversing about the instances that happened around our homes and our experiences in the vicinity. This concludes our interview with Mrs. Morford.